Buckle up as we delve into the evolution of one of the most legendary supercars ever created, the Lamborghini Countach. Practicality wasn't exactly on the menu here, but who cares when you're piloting a spaceship with wheels? This thing is pure, unadulterated 80s excess. Of course, the Countach wasn't just for petrolheads. It was a rock star in its own right. Love it or hate it, the Countach left its mark. Most important thing about a car, how it makes you feel. It's pure automotive theatrics, a rolling party straight out of an 80s neon dream, spanning from 1973 to 1990. Born in the 1970s, the Lamborghini Countach quickly became a symbol of automotive excellence, pushing boundaries with its futuristic design and unparalleled performance. With its unmistakable wedge-shaped body and aggressive lines, the Countach captivated the imagination of car enthusiasts around the world, setting a new standard for exotic sports cars. Underneath its striking exterior lay a powerhouse of engineering, boasting a mid-mounted V12 engine that delivers spine-tingling performance and heart-pounding speeds. Step inside and you're greeted by a cockpit design for the ultimate driving experience, where every control is meticulously crafted to put the driver in complete control. Throughout its production run, the Lamborghini Countach continued to evolve, with each iteration pushing the boundaries of performance, technology, and design. Today, the Lamborghini Countach remains a symbol of automotive excellence, revered by collectors and enthusiasts alike. Our journey begins in the heart of Italy, where the Lamborghini Countach was born. In the early 1970s, Lamborghini, known for its bold and audacious designs, sought to create a successor to the groundbreaking Miura. Enter Marcello Gandini, the visionary designer at Bertone, who was tasked with penning a car that would redefine the automotive landscape. Gandini's design was nothing short of revolutionary. With its sharp angles, aggressive stance, and iconic scissor doors, the Countach looked like it came straight from the future. But it wasn't just about looks. Every aspect of the Countach design was carefully engineered for maximum performance. Paolo Stanzani said, "When we set out to build the Countach, our goal was clear: create the ultimate supercar. We pushed the limits of engineering to deliver unrivaled performance, and I believe we succeeded beyond our wildest dreams." Indeed, the Countach was more than just a pretty face. Underneath its sleek exterior lay a powerhouse of an engine, delivering blistering acceleration and mind-bending top speeds. It wasn't long before the Countach captured the hearts and imaginations of automotive enthusiasts around the world. Owning a Lamborghini Countach is like owning a piece of automotive history. It became a cultural icon, appearing in numerous films, TV shows, and music videos. From its humble beginnings in Italy to its status as a global phenomenon, the Lamborghini Countach, its timeless design, blistering performance, and cultural impact ensure that it will be remembered and revered for generations to come. epitome of a poster car. The Countach is a mid-engine, rear-wheel drive sports car. It is one of the many exotic designs developed by Italian design house Bertone, which pioneered and popularized the sharply angled Italian wedge shape. The designer was Marcello Gandini at Bertone. The predecessor was the Lamborghini Miura. The successor was the Lamborghini Diavolo. The style was introduced to the public in 1970 as the Lancia Stratos Zero concept car. The first showing of the Countach prototype was at the 1971 Geneva Motor Show as the Lamborghini LP500 concept. The development of the Countach was initiated by Ferruccio Lamborghini with the goal of creating a successor to the Miura. The Miura was widely acclaimed after its introduction in 1966, but by 1970, new competitors including the Ferrari Daytona had been introduced to the market, and the Miura was showing its age. Chief engineer Paolo Stanzani and his staff began work on the Miura successor in 1970 under the project name LP112. From the beginning of the project, Stanzani's collaborators, including test driver Bob Wallace, assistant engineer Massimo Parenti, and designer Marcello Gandini of Bertone, Stanzani and Ferruccio Lamborghini agreed that the Miura's successor required a mechanical design that enabled the greatest possible performance, as well as a body that was both aerodynamically efficient and aesthetically daring. These principles had formed the Miura's development, enabled the commercial success of that model. Despite Mr. Lamborghini's preference for comfortable Grand Tourers, he recognized the commercial value of a more uncompromising sports car like the Miura, and gave Stanzani's team permission to further push boundaries with the LP112 project. The resulting Countach incorporated successful aspects of the Miura, such as the rear mid-engine, rear-wheel drive layout, along with many new engineering and styling innovations. Lamborghini's engineering team addressed several flaws in the Miura's design, improving high-speed stability and reducing lift-off, oversteer, as well as addressing the limited maintenance excess, uneven weight distribution, and cooling issues endemic to the Miura's transverse engine layout. After a year of intensive development work, the first Countach prototype, designated LP500, was shown to the public at the 1971 Geneva Motor Show. Subsequently, the Lamborghini engineering team spent 3 years refining this radical prototype into the production-ready LP400 Countach, which debuted in 1974. The Countach name originated in late 1970 or 1971, near the beginning of the LP112 project. Most previous and subsequent Lamborghini car names are associated with famous bulls and bullfighting, but the Countach broke with this tradition. The name originated from the word pronounced Countach, an exclamation of the astonishment in the Piedmontese language. Marcello Gandini, the designer of the Countach, explained the origin of the name. When we made cars for the car shows, we worked at night and we were all tired, so we would joke around to keep our morale up. There was a profiler working with us who made the locks. He was 2 meters tall with 2 enormous hands, and he performed all the little jobs. He spoke almost only Piedmontese, didn't even speak Italian. Piedmontese is much different from Italian and sounds like French. One of his most frequent exclamations was Countach, which literally means plague, contagion, and is actually used more to express amazement or even admiration, like goodness. he had this habit. When we were working at night to keep our morale up, there was a jousting spirit. So I said we could call it Countach, just as a joke, to say an exaggerated quip without any conviction. There nearby was Bob Wallace, who assembled the mechanics. We always made the cars operational. At that time, you could even roll into the car shows with the car running, which was marvelous. So jokingly, I asked Bob Wallace how it sounded to Anglo-Saxon ear. He said it in his own way. Strangely, it worked. We immediately came up with the writing and stuck it on. But maybe the real suggestion was the idea of one of my co-workers, a young man, who said, "Let's call it that." That is how the name was coined. This is the only true story behind this word. Marcello Gandini, Lamborghini used a system, alphanumeric designations, in order to further designate Countach models. This designation begins with LP, an abbreviation of the Italian longitudinal posterior, meaning longitudinal rear. This refers to the engine orientation and placement shared by all Countach models. For the prototype and early production models, LP was followed by a 3-digit number designating nominal engine displacement. 400 for 3.9 litre engine, 3.9 litre engines, and 500 for 4.8 and 5 litre engines. Therefore, the full name of the first production Countach was the Lamborghini Countach LP400, as in the Miura. The letter S, short for Sport, was added for later high-performance variants. This naming scheme was disrupted by the 1985 LP5000 quadrivalve, equipped with a 5.2 litre engine, also called the 5000 QV. The LP designation was dropped entirely for the 1988 25th anniversary edition, also called the Anniversary. The Countach was styled by Marcello Gandini of the Bertone Design Studio. His design for the Countach's predecessor, the Miura, achieved commercial success and critical acclaim from the automotive press when it was introduced in March 1966. Following the Miura's debut, Gandini began experimenting with a new, more angular and geometric design language in a series of concept cars, the Lamborghini, Alfa Romeo, and Lancia. In particular, the 1968 Alfa Romeo Turbo and the 1970 Lancia Stratos Zero were direct styling precursors to the Countach. Like the Countach, they were both entirely wedge-shaped mid-engine designs with a low, flat front, truncated tail, and angular details. Both of these concept cars featured unconventional methods of entry into the passenger compartment, a hinged windshield for the Stratos Zero and scissor doors for the Carabo, foreshadowing the scissor doors used on the Countach. At the start of the LP112 project in 1970, Lamborghini commissioned Gandini and his team at Bertone to develop a body for the then unnamed prototype. Chief engineer Paolo Stanzani supplied the design team with chassis information so that body design could proceed while the mechanical details of the prototype were finalized. Shortly before the 1971 Geneva Auto Show, the finished chassis was shipped to Bertone, where the prototype bodywork and interior were installed. The resulting Countach LP500 prototype was unveiled at the 1971 Geneva Auto Show, where its unconventional design drew great public interest. LP500 prototype had a crisp, wedge-shaped design that, compared to the Miura, was wide and very low, but shorter in overall length. Overall dimensions of the prototype were 185 centimeters. The nose of the prototype tapered sharply to a thin grille, an uninterrupted slope enabled by headlights and the retractable housing that flipped down inside the body when not in use. The Countach LP400 was the initial production model. The interior of the prototype was equally notable to contemporary audiences as the exterior, as it incorporated new technologies and bold styling decisions. Gandini initially sketched a dashboard with all digital readouts for the Countach. This dashboard design was not fully realized in time for the debut. The LP500 prototype instead used the conventional analog speedometer and tachometer. However, the LP500 dashboard incorporated other innovations from Gandini's original sketches, including aircraft or spaceship-inspired warning lights placed centrally on the steering column within the arc of the steering wheel. One of these warning lights served as similar purpose as the modern automatic cruise control system, illuminating when a set speed was exceeded. Gandini also used a single-spoke steering wheel and deeply recessed bucket seats, which shared a stylized motif of segmented blocks. The low seating position, prominent transmission tunnel, wide door sills all contributed to the sensation of being inside a race car cockpit. The Countach was the first production car to incorporate scissor doors. The scissor doors of the Countach prototype were a prominent design feature carried over to the production Countach, as well as many subsequent Lamborghini models. Following the LP500 prototype's public debut, the body design was progressively altered during pre-production testing to improve aerodynamic performance, high-speed stability, engine cooling, and ability to meet mandated safety requirements. This resulted in many differences between the LP500 prototype and the production LP400. The most visible change was the addition of several vents to improve engine cooling and air intake. The styling of the Countach was continually altered as new production models were introduced. Later additions, including flared arches, spoilers, carburetors, covers, and bumpers, progressively changed the Countach body in order to improve the model's performance, safety, and appearance. Despite these updates, the basic shape of the first prototype, revealed in 1971, reimagined virtually unchanged over its 19-year lifespan. Engine and transmission. Engine compartment of the Countach. The Countach was designed around the existing Lamborghini V12 engine in a rear mid-engined rear-wheel drive layout. In contrast to the Miura's transversely mounted engine, the engine in the Countach was longitudinally mounted. This layout was a first for road-going V12, previously used only in the Ferrari P-Series racing cars. However, Chief Engineer Paolo Stanzani wanted to improve the weight distribution of the car even further and devised a new type of longitudinal layout that would avoid placing the mass of the transmission at the rear of the car. The resulting configuration had the output shaft at the front of the engine, immediately connecting through the clutch assembly to the transmission. The transmission itself was a 5-speed manual with Porsche-type synchro mesh and mounted in the middle of the car between the two seats. The driveshaft ran from the transmission through the engine oil sump to a differential at the rear. This arrangement effectively sandwiched the length of the engine between the mid-mounted transmission and the rear-mounted differential. This configuration had numerous advantages over the Miura's transverse engine, including an increased stability from placing more mass near the car's center, a shorter overall wheelbase, a more direct gear shift linkage for easier and faster shifting, better cooling, and easier maintenance access to engine components. The Lamborghini V12 used in the Countach, originated in 1963, was designed by Giotto Bezzarini. The first production model of the Countach was the LP400, produced from 1974 until 1978. It was first offered for sale at the 1974 Geneva Motor Show, where 50 orders were placed. The LP400 was equipped with a 3.9-litre engine, delivering 370 horsepower. This engine was given the type designation L406. Externally, little had changed from the second prototype. The nose panel was altered, the side windows now horizontally, and various details of interior trim were changed, or valve arrangement markings. as it is found on the later variants. The LP400 chassis was constructed by Marcello, then delivered to the Lamborghini factory at Santa Garda, where the car was assembled and painted. The engine and transmission were also manufactured at Santa Garda. Each engine was run for a total of 5 hours and inspected before being installed in the car. The LP400 production line was developed and supervised by Giancarlo Guerrera, a former Scagaletti employee who worked closely with Stanzani. By the end of production in 1978, the company had produced 157 Countach LP400s. LP400S. In 1978, a new LP400S model was introduced, though the engine was slightly downgraded from the LP400 model at 261 kilowatts or 350 horsepower. The most radical changes were on the exterior, where the tires were replaced with 345-35R15 Pirelli P7 tires, the widest tires available on a production car at the time, and fiberglass wheel arch extensions were added, giving the car the fundamental look it kept until the end of the production run. An optional V-shaped rear wing was available over the rear deck following the popularity generated from the rear wing of the Walter Wolf Countach, which, while improving high-speed stability, reduced the top speed by at least 16 km per hour or 10 miles per hour. Most owners ordered the car with the wing despite this disadvantage. The LP400S handling was improved by the wider tires, which made the car more stable while cornering. The standard emblems, Lamborghini and Countach, were kept at the rear, but an angular S emblem was added after the Countach on the right side. The 25th Anniversary Edition, named to honor the company's 25th anniversary in 1988. The 25th Anniversary Countach, although mechanically very similar to the 5000 QV, sported considerable restyling done by Hiroshio Pagani, notably enlargement and extensions of the rear airbox. Intake ducts was among other refinements undertaken, extending them to a more gradual incline, further in keeping with aerodynamic streamlining, while the secondary pair of embossed ducts, originally situated further behind them, were brought forward and relocated directly on top, encompassing refashioned fins, now running longitudinally rather than transversely. This allowed the airboxes located behind the radiators to be rotated from a transverse to a longitudinal position, allowing better airflow from the radiators out through the secondary fins. Additionally, further reconstruction of an already modified engine cover from a concept consisting of dual raised sections and tri-ducting to one that embodies a center raised section, incorporating dual ducting become another feature. Various redevelopments to the rear were made, most notably the introduction of a rear bumper, extending outwardly from the lower portion. These styling changes, the Anniversary Edition, was produced up until 1990 before being superseded by the Lamborghini Diablo. The 25th Anniversary Edition was the most refined and possibly fastest variant of the Lamborghini Countach, accelerating from 0 to 60 in 4.7 seconds and achieving a top speed of 295 kilometers or 183 miles per hour. In 1979, grey market US model Countach LP400S, used in the American film The Cannonball Run, note a front spoiler unique to grey market cars. In 1981, grey market US model Countach LP400S, the United States, Lamborghini's biggest market, and has traditionally been the largest market in the world for expensive cars such as exotic sports cars. However, neither the Countach nor its closest competitor, the Ferrari Berlinetta Boxer, were built from the factory to meet United States or Canadian safety and emissions regulations. Americans purchased the Countach anyway, and individual consumers paid to modify each vehicle to meet United States Environmental Production Agency and United States Department of Transportation regulations. This was known as the grey market era, 1976 to 1988. While the Countach, Ferrari Berlinetta Boxer, Range Rover were among the first such vehicles, the infrastructure they created allowed the grey market to reach 66,900 vehicles in 1985. In 1985, with the introduction of the 5000 QV, a US specification model was produced by the factory, meeting United States federal safety and emissions regulations. Changes to the American specification models included larger energy-absorbing bumpers, as the original bumper design did not meet the American 5 mph regulation. Many owners removed the bumpers immediately or received their new car without bumpers installed. American federal law exempts all vehicles older than 25 years from all design, safety, and emission regulations. Therefore, any original Countach can be freely imported into the US and registered for unrestricted road use in states that permit such activity. Walter Wolf Countach. In 1975, Walter Wolf, a wealthy Canadian businessman and owner of the Wolf F1 racing team in the 1970s, purchased an LP400. However, he was not satisfied with the LP400's engine, Gianpaolo Delara, to create a special high-powered version of the Countach. Delara was the former chief engineer at Lamborghini and had founded his own company, Delara Automobili, in 1972. 104 Delara modified chassis 1120148 to create the Walter Wolf Special, with an engine identical to the 5-litre engine from the original 1971 LP500 prototype, which generated 447 horsepower at 7,900 RPM and enabled the car to attain a theoretical maximum speed of 315 or 324 kilometers per hour, which is around 200 miles an hour. This model also featured upgraded wheels, Pirelli P7 tires, flared arches, and front and rear spoilers. All features that would become integrated on future Countachs, starting with the LP400S. Wolf's car was painted red with black flared arches, was designated LP500S, like the standard Countach model from the 1980s, and was the key stepping stone that led to the development of these later production models. A total of 1,983 cars were built during the Countach's 16-year lifetime.